We see a music teacher at the start of the movie. He was a pianist who was excellent at teaching his students. He is not much interested in teaching, rather he is more interested in joining a music club. The principal of the school where he is currently employed calls him and tells him you've been permanent at this job. Expectedly, Joe must be happy for the promotion of his status. But later, when he is unhappy with this, Joe returns to his house and speaks with his mother. He begins to inform his mother that his job at the school has been made permanent. His mother becomes really excited after hearing this. Joe inquires why you have been so excited is that it's not a dream. His mother informs him that you are also a music teacher at the school. Joe begins to agree after she tries to convince him. Meanwhile, he receives a call from his student. He tells that I've joined a music club. To join that music club is a dream of Joe. That student informs him that while I've been chosen as a drummer, they still have a few people. You are welcome to visit if you so want. After hearing this, Joe runs to get to the music club. As soon as he enters the music club, he meets everyone. The owner of the music club, a lady, comes to him and asks him to show his skills. The skills Joe has, he begins to play piano and he plays well enough to win everyone's heart. The lady tells him that he can play it very well and you will also perform a night show from today. Later, he departs happily from there and becomes engaged with a phone call. He was passing from the traffic road and he wasn't terrified of any vehicle collapsing on him. He is unconcerned about where he is walking while walking like way. That a manhole is uncovered on the way he is walking and he falls into it. He dies after falling into it and transforms into a blue-colored soul. The area where he arrives was quite black, with no light and nothing visible. Joe's soul, on the other hand, sees a large ball with a lot of light. With many stairs leading to that place, the name of this place was the Great Beyond. It means that the afterlife will be, and we shall discover what is included within it later. Joe's soul begins to move nearer, but after being terrified, it returns. There were a lot of spirits there. Joe started talking to them telling him that we'd been here for a long time. We too don't have enough dare to go to the Great Beyond. There was an old soul amongst the other souls that is here for 106 years. Joe goes afar, it was a garden-like place. There were some tiny souls that begin to tease Joe. Joe tells them not to worry me and go away from here. Meanwhile, another soul comes there that was different from them and was giant. That was a soul translator. Joe begins to ask about this place. The translator tells him that this is the great before. Here are the tiny souls that have to go into the world yet. There's a portal there under our planet, Earth is. All of the little, baby souls are jumping from that location. Joe jumps as well, hoping that the Earth will accept him, but it's not going to happen because he repels. He tries again and again in the hopes of entering the Earth at any time, but he continues to be repelled. The translator tells him that there's only one way that you can go into the world with these souls. You can make mentor of one of the soul. Joe inquires, what if I don't do this? The translator responds, you'll have to travel into the Great Beyond then. Joe becomes terrified after hearing this and goes to the mentor session. Following Joe's departure, an accountant comes to the translator. That counts all the souls that have gone to the Great Beyond. He tells the translator that I've done a mistake. So, what should I do now? The translator instructs him to look for the record in the files. The accountant goes to the file to double-check the record. Joe is in a seminar with other souls on the other side. The seminar begins, and they are taught how to be a mentor. And you'll have given a partner along with you'll learn everything. It was informed there that you can only make the mentor of a new soul. When your spark is completed, means you're capable to teach a soul. No soul sitting there was capable because no one's spark was completed. They're informed if you don't want to go into the Great Beyond. There will be a test session in which we'll give you mentors and trainers. If your spark completes after living with them and we consider you capable of going into the world, your request will be accepted. Joe's turn comes gradually, as does the turn of all other souls. He is assigned a cute, tiny mentor named 22. They continue to stroll together, and 22 begins to explain his responsibilities to him. He says to Joe, we'll have a look at your past life, what you've done in your past life. If you talk about me, I am going to tell you about me. I'll check up on your things, how your life had been. And what you can do now. On this basis you'll select whether you can go into the world or not. And I'm telling you that the chances are too little. Because many of the people have taken training from me, including the scientists and the people like Mr. Rasa. But they, too, were unable to prevent them from entering the Great Beyond. After telling this he starts training and along with he looks at his past life, the life he has spent. When he looks around, he notices Joe playing the piano and attending classes. He realizes that Joe's life was not going as planned. It suggests he wanted to join a music club, but he died before he had a chance to do so. As he watches this, 22 responds, "I'll help you," later. Both of them begin to do the things from the spark that can be completed. Because by doing this, Joe can go back on Earth. Joe begins to play the piano, but his spark is not yet completed. 22 now tries something and asks him to do something. His spark, however, does not complete after this. They both become worried, and the soul translator appears later. And it indicates that you've only got a short time left. There's no assurance that spark will be completed later if it hasn't been completed now. They say they'll give it their best. They then travel to a place where there is darkness and a large number of evil souls. Not only that, but they are being pursued by an evil soul. Meanwhile, a sailor comes and says that I'm ready to help you. Meanwhile, they see the spark of an evil soul was completed. And the portal was open for him so he could go to the world, and he goes back in his world. Later, Joe, 22, and the sailor sit in the same boat. Later they go to a place where the sailor uses his stick and makes a portal. Along with this, he begins to play music and asks Joe to focus. In a while, life begins to be visible in the portal, the life of the earth. In which we see Joe in a hospital. Taking advantage of this, Joe and 22 both jump into it, but a mistake happens here. The soul of 22 mistakenly falls into Joe's body, and the soul of Joe falls into the body of 22, which is of a cat. Joe becomes enraged by what he has done. They leave the hospital, and 22, who is in Joe's body, begins to be terrified. He was afraid of the traffic because he has come on the earth for the first time. He has seen this all for the first time, and he hides near the steps after being afraid. Joe, the cat, begins to warn him that nothing will happen, you can come out, this world won't hurt you, but 22 is still terrified. Joe, the cat, brings him a pizza that he likes a lot. He comes after eating, and the owner of the music club sees him. He receives a call from the owner of the music club as they arrive home. He also receives a call from his student, which he is unable to answer because of being a cat. Later, he receives the voice notes of his student, which he hears. In which it was informed that the owner of the music club has seen you and calling you at night for the same show that you to perform. Joe was quite happy, but how he could go by being a cat in the show. He begins to convince 22, and finally, he agrees. He begins to prepare, initially the cat, Joe begins to trim his hair, but being a cat he couldn't do this. Later, they go to a saloon, and later, they go to Joe's mother's shop. She gives him a lovely suit, which Joe wears and looks lovely in. Later, they begin to move further, and after watching Joe's body, the soul of 22, that he is enjoying this life a lot, he begins to enjoy and roaming here and there. He tells Joe, the cat, that he wants to live in this world forever. However, Joe says that it is my body, and after hearing this, 22's soul, Joe's body, begins to flee. The body of Joe and the cat begins to chase him. On the way, we see that accountant that has come on this earth from that world to take them back into the world of souls. Because he knows that the mistake he commits was not to count the soul of Joe, now he has come to take him. He has spread the portals everywhere. When the cat and Joe's body are running, they fall onto the portal and go back into the world of souls and reaches into the great before, into the world of souls. They begin to fight after going there. 22 sees that his spark of the earth has been completed. Joe's soul tells him that this is because of me. He, after going into the world, lived into my body and had done my tasks. My spark would have been completed if I had gone into my body, and I would have been sent to the world. They both go towards the portal from they could go to the world. Only 22 has this chance because he has the spark. He gives his spark to the soul of Joe and goes from there. Joe becomes happy to see this and he jumps into the portal. After going there, he reaches the place where the night show was to be started. He gets late, but the lady doesn't say anything and lets him come. He becomes happy and performs well. The lady likes his show, and she asks him to come again. When Joe was going home, he misses 22 a lot on his way. After going to his house, he sees the things that were scattered by 22. He sees his favorite things, the pizza and the donuts. He decides that he'll meet his mentor, 22 again, and along with this, he'll take his favorite things. He sits at a place, and by closing his eyes he begins to think. He again goes into the world of souls and meets the sailor. The sailor informs him that 22 has turned into a bad soul, and he usually remains sad. He doesn't seem to care if he is a good person. He appears to have lost everything. Joe's spirit goes to see 22, but as soon as he sees him, the evil soul flees from Joe. Joe aims to convince him and leads him to the portal. From one can go into the world. But they have only one spark, that only one soul can go. Joe's soul begins to convince him, initially the soul of 22, that becomes evil, that eaten Joe's soul. But Joe has shown him a leaf and his heart melts, and he reminds life again. That is what life is, and how it is to live on Earth. Here near the portal, he tells Joe that I can't go alone, if I go I'll go with you. But Joe says that we have only one spark, so you can go. He gives him the spark, but 22 holds his hand and both begin to jump. On the way from the portal, Joe leaves 22's hand, so 22 can go alone on the world. Because he knows, if they both go with one pass it will be difficult for both of them. That's why he has sacrificed for 22, and as a result, he comes back to Great Before. After going there his fate changes, the translator has allowed him to go into the world. Later, the soul of Joe also happily goes into the earth. He makes a promise to himself that he will live his life as though he only has a limited amount of time. He makes every moment memorable and achieves his goals. The film ends here.